Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to make a cake plate, cake tier, cake holder. We're going to use this cake plate from Dollar Tree, this white chalk paint, and also the glass candle holder from Dollar Tree. And it's the one that has like the cracks in it. And you can either paint this on the outside and it will be the same color as the cake plate once it's painted, but I wanted to see what it would look like if I painted the inside because I am going to distress the cake plate. I thought it would be interesting if I kept the cracked glass look with the candle holder, and I could only do that by painting the inside of the candle holder. So I'm going to go ahead and paint it, and once it dries, I'm going to see if I like it or not. If I don't, I can always paint the outside, no big deal. And I do like to use the chalk paint for this because of the kind of country cottage sort of style that I want the plate to have. I will be distressing it later as well, so I like the opaqueness of the chalk paint. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside to dry, and once it has dried, this is what the candle holder looks like. And it has kind of like an antique opaqueness to it, so I think I'm going to keep it. I'm not going to paint the outside right now. And this is what the cake plate looks like. So I'm trying to decide here which way I want to attach the candle holder. Either way looks fine, but this way is the way I decide that I'm going to attach it. But looking at the top of the cake plate, there were still a few little streaks where the silver was showing through. So I'm going to take a little bit more of the same chalk paint and do a really light coat. And I'm just really trying to cover those places where the silver was still peeking through a little bit. So while that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and start on my next project. This candle holder mason jar comes from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to go ahead and use the same white chalk paint to give a prime coat to the top of the mason jar and the tea light holder part of the top. Did that make sense? So now that it is all dry, I'm going to take this acrylic paint in black and just the tiniest little smidge, and I don't even use all of that. I'm going to crumple up this paper towel and I'm just going to go along the edges just to give a little worn look to this cake plate. I'm also going to distress the top of it, and I want to give the center of the plate a look like cakes have been put on it and taken off. So that's why I go in the circular motion. You know, if you use something for the same purpose over and over again, you kind of get this pattern of use. And there's an extra lip, decorative lip at the bottom right there. I'm also going to distress that part as well. And I never have to re-dip the black paint. It's kind of a dry brush at this point, and I think it's working perfectly. So I'm going to let that dry, and once it does, I'm going to attach the candle holder with a generous amount of E6000. Turn the plate upside down. Oh, look who it is. And now that the top of the mason jar has dried, I wanted to paint it sort of a lavender color. So I decided that because I already had that little bit of black that I use for the plate, that I would take some of this blossom paint from Waverly and just add it to that black, and it would give me sort of a purplish lavender color. So you see how little black paint was in there, and I fill the rest up with white. Guys, it did not give me a lavender color. You'll see in a moment. It turns out to be more of a puce color. It is not the color I was going for, but I thought, well, let me just put it on and see. No, this is not the spring color I was looking for. So I go ahead and let it dry. And in the meantime, I'm going to take this ceramic bunny, and I want to use the bunny and also the paintbrush from this set. Be really careful, guys. I have another one of these bunnies that I used in a DIY, and I pulled the top out with no problem. This one I pulled the top out and a little chip came off on the top of the head right there. So I just take a little E6000 and I'm gonna glue it back in place. And then with the paint that I'm going to paint the bunny with, it will help to conceal that. So just be careful. Some of them will come off really easily. I had no problem with the last one. It pulled out with no problem, and this one chipped. So just a little FYI in case you want to use this bunny or any of the other little ceramics. I believe they have a chick, they have a Easter egg, and another one. So this is what I'm going to paint the bunny with, this chalk paint and celery by Waverly. And I like this color. I decided that I wanted to do the bunny and the jar in neutral tones, and that's why I chose this color for the bunny. And like I said, I wanted to use this paintbrush. It did take longer with this paintbrush, but I knew I had some other painting to do and I didn't want to use up my other brushes. So I just used this little brush. It got the job done. It was just a little more tedious, but it did work. So I'm going to set that aside to dry, and I'm going to take this Waverly paint in hazelnut. This is acrylic paint, and I'm going to go over the ugly puce color that I created a few seconds ago or a few minutes ago. Like I said, I decided I wanted this jar to be neutral toned, so this is a perfect color combination with the green bunny. And this coated this ugly color, the hazelnut coated that ugly color so well. I was super happy that it did, because that color needed to be completely covered up. So this is looking better to me already. So I'm going to go ahead and paint the top, a little bit of the inside of the top, and the rest of the tea light candle holder. So I decide to wrap the jar in a little twine using hot glue to keep it in place. A little later on, you will see that I decide to remove the twine not the twine at the top, but the twine that's wrapped around the jar. I'll show you that later. And now using these twine carrots, I'm going to take 2 of them. And I do want to use this moss as well. I think this is the Spanish moss. I'm going to go ahead and fluff up the top of the carrots. I want them to stand up nice and tall. And then using some hot glue right on the tip of the carrot, I'm going to stand 2 of them up in the tea light candle holder part of the mason jar top. And now I'm going to take a little bit of the floral moss and I'm going to put some hot glue down into the part of the tea light candle holder that's still exposed. And I'm going to take a little bit of this moss and push it down in there just to make it look like the carrots are in soil or in dirt or in grass. And then I'm going to go around the outside of the jar and do the same thing. This would also work with some of the foam eggs that Dollar Tree sells. That would look really cute as well. Now I'm going to put a little bit of the moss in the bottom of the jar. And then insert the carrots, pretty much just insert the whole top and screw it closed. That's how it's looking so far. And I want to hot glue the bunny right on top of the jar. So this is the look that I have so far, but I decide that this bunny needs a fluffy tail. So Dollar Tree sells these little bunny and chick pom-pom kits, and so I'm gonna take one of the small white pom-poms and I'm gonna hot glue it onto the back of the bunny to give it a cute little fluffy tail. So that's what we have so far, but I decide that this needs a little sign. So I'm going to use these fabric treat bags, also from Dollar Tree. Now, if you do this, I'm going to write a sign that says free carrots. If you do this using these treat bags, I would suggest that you write the message before you cut the bag. I did it the opposite way. I cut the bag up first to the size that I wanted for the sign, and then when I was trying to write on it, it kept moving. The fabric is super stretchy, and it kind of slipped and slid underneath me trying to write on it with this marker. So I'm trying to stretch it as much as I can so that I can write on it, but you see the fabric kind of crinkles underneath the marker. So if you decide to do it this way, write your message before you cut the bag up. And because I am adding this sign, that is why I end up taking the twine off, because otherwise the sign would not lay flat on the jar. So I'm going to show you how the sign will go on, but you'll see the end result at the end of the video with everything together. So I've laid out this Ralph's bag, and do these boots look familiar? Target Dollar Spot was selling these during Christmas for $3, I believe, and I got a couple of them and I never used them, so I decided to make some muddy boot planters. And I'm going to use hazelnut, truffle, and celery paints, all from Waverly. The truffle and the celery are chalk paints. The hazelnut is acrylic. And the reason why I'm using all three of these colors is I want to add a depth of color. I don't just want to put brown paint on it and say, there's the mud. I want to give it some dimension. So I'm going to use the celery paint first. I am adding all of the paints to the tray first. These are the little plastic palettes that come from Dollar Tree, 6 in a pack, and I like them because you can use scissors and just cut. You can like customize the size of the palette that you want. You can just cut it up with scissors. So I'm going to take a sponge brush and just start dabbing the celery on. And while it's still wet, I'm going to take hazelnut and go right over it. The hazelnut color is good because it is the color combined with the celery. It was a good color of what dried mud looks like. And so I'm blending the two while they're still wet. And of course, if you're walking out in the mud, it doesn't just stay to the bottom of the boots. It kind of gets splashed up onto the boots. And so that's what I'm trying to mimic here, sort of splashes and streaks of mud on the rest of the boot. And now I'm going to go in with the truffle, and I'm just going to keep that towards the bottom for the most part. And that's going to be the part that represents the fresh, wet mud. And the truffle is a great color for that. And even though it's a chalk paint, it still looks good as wet mud because of the combination of all the colors together. So now I'm dipping a brush into the truffle and flicking the rest of the boots with the truffle because, like I said before, when you're walking through the mud, all of your boots get splattered. So I'm going to show you an up close in a second of how that turned out with paint all over my hands. This was definitely a messy project, but you can see that technique worked really well for splattering the boots. So I'm just doing a few touch-ups here because I don't want there to be a clear line. I want it to blend in a bit more. So I'm just dabbing it with that same brush that I used to splatter it with. I didn't add any additional paint. I'm just diffusing the line between the wet mud and the dry mud. And of course, adding a few spots of mud towards the top of the boots as well. So I set that aside to dry, and this is what it looks like. So now I'm going to insert this piece of foam, floral foam, and I want to get it really snugly in there. And I'm going to take some more of the Spanish moss and just fill in the gaps around the edges of the foam and the boots. I'm going to take these florals from Dollar Tree. as I told you in previous videos, these are my favorite flowers from Dollar Tree, so I'm trying to use them now as much as I can. I've been waiting to use them. I used them in a couple of my last videos, and I have a lot of them, so so I'm going to use them for this project too. And here I decided it's not as full as I want it to be, so I take one more bunch and I'm going to add it into the planter. So I'm showing this to you a couple of different ways. I took it outside, and this is what it looks like outside. And this is what it looks like on the inside of my coffee table. Now, if you are going to use this outside, you may want to put a sealant on it, because I'm pretty sure the rain is going to wash away all of that hard work that you put into trying to make these look like real muddy boots. And then you probably don't want to use these type of flowers if you're going to put it outside as well. But you have a lot of options for florals from Michael's, from Hobby Lobby, from Walmart, from Dollar Tree. There are flowers everywhere right now. But I really love the way this turned out. So this is everything all together, guys. You can see I took the twine off the rest of the jar so that my carrot sign would fit on the jar and lay flat. Here's our cake stand with our cracked glass bottom. Sorry you can't see it too well right there. And then our muddy boot planter with these gorgeous flowers. And I really like the combination of this together. It's so cottagey, so countryside. I just really, really love it. I styled it. Oh, Slash wanted to say hi, and then he changed his mind. So back to the DIYs. So I styled the cake plate with a small wood wreath from Dollar Tree, as well as 2 succulent picks from Dollar Tree. I just took the succulents off and added some peonies and some twine carrots as well, and I really love the way that turned out. Anyway, guys, I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you share this video with someone who loves spring. Please consider subscribing, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you so much, guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye.